Listeners, I think you are really going to enjoy our second segment today because we're sitting down with someone who has been subtly mentioned in nearly every podcast episode of our first season, and now you finally get to meet him. We're so pleased to share today's second segment with Nathaniel Sloan, owner and executive chef of Bloom Restaurant and Wine Bar located in the Wasena neighborhood. Thanks so much for joining us today, Nate.
Thanks for having me, Liz. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you. Seriously, I do think nearly every podcast episode we've done this year has mentioned Bloom in some way when I ask about favorite spots to eat and drink. And so when I was looking over past episodes, I was like, man, that's kind of crazy to see that you've been mentioned so much.
That's great. Yeah, we have an amazing community.
Yeah, truly. And we're going to learn more about that today and how you're giving back too. And here's a blast from the past. So did you know I was doing some English major math, which if you listen to the last financial episode means that I'm just sort of hoping for the best of a round number. But you and I have now known each other for over 13 years.
Wow.
Right? So
That's wild.
one of my first jobs when I moved to Roanoke was waiting tables at Local Roots, of which you were chef at the time. And so personally, I feel like you played a pretty major role in my better understanding of fine dining and what it means to eat locally. So thanks for that. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And it was a great adventure we had back then.
Yes, it
awesome.
was. And
Really
on to new
honored to have
adventures.
done that.
Yeah. So you, we did the counting and you won 16 awards in this year's 2024 Dining Awards, thanks to our readers. So I won't list them all because you can find them over on our website, Would Be Here a While. But those things include for multiple years now, Top Chef, Best Overall Staff, Best New Restaurant. I mean, those are really amazing things. And we even skipped 2020 due to the pandemic.
Yeah.
So this is really like 3 to 4 years of some really amazing feedback from readers who are excited to be in your restaurant.
Yeah, we were honestly extremely grateful to have the support and the community behind us like we do. And our team, you can't say enough about them. And they win the awards because they are that great. They're
They are
an amazing
amazing.
group of people that really believe in what we are doing here at Bloom. And it wouldn't be possible without them.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And they clearly love you. You were actually in our 40 under 40 class of 2021. And to this day, I still think that was the longest nomination I've ever gotten because your entire staff at the time pitched in and wrote that nomination for you. And so it was very clear that their love and respect for you and what you do was palpable. And, you know, it was just great to see that. It was wonderful to see them giving back to you who are giving back to them all the time.
Yeah, like I said, I couldn't do it without them. And it is what makes Bloom special.
Yeah.
It is that family, that community that we have there.
Absolutely. So listeners, you've also seen Bloom in the Roanoker, again, not just for the dining awards, but since the restaurant's launch, we showcase Nate's gorgeous plate of beets. If you're looking on our YouTube channel, you can see me waving that around right here. One of my personal favorites. And so, thank you for allowing us to showcase that, not just your 40 under 40, but the restaurant itself and the dishes that you're making. Your Instagram photos are always like, they're not just about drooling. It's like a piece of art. So that's always really beautiful to see.
Yeah, that when we... When you all put us on the cover that year, that was quite incredible. That was somewhat in the infancy of our life as a restaurant, and that moment in time really was surreal. And we do our best to create, art on the plate in the sense of like we do feel like people eat with their eyes first. Mm-hmm. So we always try to like start there and really have fun with what we're doing.
Yeah, well, it definitely shows because just the plates are always beautiful. And I hope that your, kitchen team really enjoys putting it all together, even if they have to use the tweezers and
tweezers are optional.
Yeah,
they are
okay.
encouraged just for that precision.
Yep.
And ultimately, as a chef back there, you kind of find that over time you get more and more comfortable with them.
Sure.
And so you kind of start to reach for them intuitively.
Yeah, just your extension of your fingers, basically,
exactly.
at that point.
Without a doubt.
Cool. So, in terms of readers have learned a little bit about you from our class of 2021, 40 under 40, but a lot has happened since then. And I was curious about if you would be interested in sharing some of your background with our listeners.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I'm somewhat local, grew up in Franklin County, Virginia, My family has operated a non-certified organic produce farm there for going on 30 years, which was an incredible opportunity for me as a young lad, as they say. Nothing like building some work ethic and character when you're out there in the field digging potatoes and picking berries or whatever it is. So I give it up for my parents and my family and my sisters for that, because without that humble foundation, I don't think I would be the person, of course, or the chef that I am to this day. And then, of course, got that bug to travel and moved out west for a couple of years and then to the Northeast. Did some international travel, came back in Roanoke, settled down for a little bit, and then moved to Asheville with my former partner, and then we came back and then settled into Roanoke, and voila, Bloom came to life.
Yeah, and that's sort of what sort of inspired you to open the restaurant? Because you were obviously in the restaurant industry, and what made you decide, I got to do this? I just have to do this on my own and really just rock it hard.
Yeah. So upon moving back to Roanoke, I felt if I was going to stay in the industry, because you have these shifts in time, and as you grow older, you're always constantly thinking, what's my next step? What's the next move for me? And then food just seemed to be that calling for sure. It's been the foundation of the last 20 years of my life and direction, and it's a huge piece of me. So it felt right. It felt like the Roanoke is a great place and and I feel like we have the perfect time to kind of continue to build and create, and there's so much room to grow. And so it just seemed more than appropriate timing to launch.
Absolutely.
Do what I've had been doing and kind of see where we can continue to grow Roanoke.
Mm-hmm. And so let's talk about Bloom, the story behind the name. What inspired the name Bloom?
That was quite an organic fruition to say as well. Just brainstorming once again with a former partner. We were just outside, and I have always kind of wrestled with myself and my worst critic, as they say. So I was really struggling with the name, and it just seemed, sometimes when you're stressing yourself out on a topic, you kind of can't see past the fence line. And so that came into conversation, and then it just seemed to fit. And of course, it's not just bloom in the sense of a flower, of course, which is the first imagery I feel like most people kind of, when it comes to mind. Bloom happens a lot actually in the culinary world and just in life around us. And so the first thing that pops into my mind when I think about bloom is making bread and kind of that yeast culture and that new life that's being brought into the equation, and how the opportunity is there to craft something great.
We need to write a book together. That's like perfect on the nose of like
There you go.
Beautiful industry. And so in addition to the wonderful dinners that you're doing, you also recently incorporated brunch into it earlier this year, I
brunch.
believe,
Mm-hmm.
Which is just ridiculous. I mean, like to be able to go in and eat that giant stack of souffle pancakes. And I know the menu has changed since, but like I still dream about those pancakes.
The souffle pancakes they were the launch for sure. We wanted to do something fun and unique and try to honestly just attract attention and get people in the door on a Saturday. And it was a lot of fun. We have since changed them. They may come back. We'll see what the guests say and see what they think. But we are very happy with the way brunch is going. It's 11 to 2 on Saturdays. We may even start opening a little bit earlier just to kind of accommodate the earlier crowd. But
that'd be me, because I'm ready for second breakfast at like 10 a.m. So.
Right. Yeah. So we've definitely been in discussion about that and trying to grow those hours a bit. But it's a lot of fun. We have a great team. It's been a great experience too, being open, because I love our space during the day, the way the natural light kind of comes in through Main Street and just fills the room and just kind of illuminates everything around you. It's a really great space to be.
Absolutely. It's really beautiful. And you did a lot of work yourself in there. I mean, I remember walking by there for months while you were getting ready, and it was just, you were always, in work gear.
That's right.
Blood,
sweat, and
yourself.
tears, right?
Yeah.
So I owe a lot to my father and my close friends and family for their assistance. Maddie, our first sous chef, she was there painting with me right by my side. And of course the Garland team and the construction crew that they had on site was crucial. And we worked together as a team to really accomplish, and had a really great friend of mine, Tom from Branch. He did a lot of the detail fine work for us too. So it takes a tribe.
Yeah, and I will add that work, you kind of helped spawn the regrowth of that Wasena neighborhood, I think. You and Quincy and so many
R&D.
other small businesses that have come together to provide this space for people who, you're 3 blocks from my house, man. Like, that is
it's great.
Crazy. When we moved into that house, there was nothing there. And to be able to have a coffee shop and an amazing restaurant that does brunch and dinner, like, we talk all the time how lucky we are to have that within walking distance. And of course Roanoke's pretty small, so you can get to Bloom quickly when you need to.
Yeah.
You're right off the Greenway. You can walk down
It's
if you
pretty
need
incredible
to
be right there. Yeah.
But it's been wonderful to see that growth, and so you've been a really key part of that. Like, how do you feel having seen what it was to what it is now? That's been 5 years essentially.
Yeah. Well, and as a young middle school skater boy, we would get a friend of mine, his mom would drive us in, and we'd go to the skate park and we'd tear it up and go to the Getty, and it always felt just a little bit different. It's being a country boy, being in the city like that, you're like, whoa, all right, kind of edgy. I like this stuff, So to be a part of the revitalization of Wasena has been a true honor, and it's they do say a restaurant can be a catalyst for regrowth like that, but I do think R&D being that anchor, moving in that January, and then us opening that July. And then, of course, the businesses that are there, the barbershop, Renovation Alliance, and now we got a really boutique gym there, too. So it's pretty incredible. And our good friends, Chelsea and Jeremy, with the Juice Company, and Buffalo Hemp. I mean, you got a great community there. Not to mention the goat and the tap room
Yeah,
and
and then you
everything.
got Kind
just
Baking
around the
right next
area.
door.
Oh,
Like,
of course,
oh my
Bren.
gosh.
She's. It's so hard walking into work on the days they're baking and not just wanting to eat all of the food.
Yeah,
that's
I
there
don't blame
before
you.
us.
I
Yeah.
love that you carry some of her stuff in there too. Like, I think
Oh,
that's
yeah.
really clever to be able to work in your neighbors.
Of course,
You know?
yeah. We try to make it as synergistic and full circle as possible.
Yeah, and so she's right beside you, but actually in between is this lovely little space. You call it the Jazz Lounge Room.
Yeah.
And so that is a wonderful event for overflow, but also for private events. I think that's a really cool option that you have as a restaurant that you're offering to people.
Yeah, we really, Stephanie, our AGM, has been doing a fantastic job kind of really growing that events program. And it's the perfect intimate space, not only for a romantic dinner, but also for smaller groups, business meetings, kind of corporate functions and things that are under 30 people. We've really been trying to grow that because it's such an intimate and gorgeous space that lends itself well to just small groups and just special occasions.
Yeah. So personally speaking, so last year I threw a freelance party for my Roanoker
Yeah,
freelance
that was
team, and
great.
we had a party in that space for 2 hours. And I've got people asking me all year, like, we're going back there, right? I'm like, okay, it's July. I cannot think about Christmas parties right
Christmas
now,
so
you
far
know?
away, right.
But it was great. It was, there were probably 30 of us in there at any point, and your poor staff, Tyler's like navigating around all the elbows and stuff. But you made this custom drink, the hot off the press cocktail, and it was just such a pleasure to be there. And like it felt like holiday in that space. It was so great.
It is very romantic, especially around the holiday time. And Brandon, of course, on the bar, always crafting the most delicious cocktails around. And Tyler, as you mentioned, now doing Blind House. So it's really cool to see how a restaurant and a community that we have can really grow into something that just continues to multiply and become stronger and better.
And I wanted to touch on that because you've had staff who might not no longer be with you currently, but they're still involved with you in some way. You've got Lisa Archer, she's doing, Edible Blue Ridge. You've got Tyler, who's at Blind House. I mean, these are people who you have worked with and you continue to work with in other avenues, even if they're not directly working for you anymore.
Yeah.
But I think that's really collaborative. And so it's wonderful that you're still keeping in touch with folks who have been important to you in some way, and you're building that community even greater than what it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without a doubt. Good people will always find each other. And when you develop those connections and you find incredible people like Lisa and Tyler and Brandon and all the crew that's even moved on and that is still on the Bloom team, you don't really want to let those relationships kind of fade away, and you want to try to keep those fires lit.
Yeah.
Keep the creative moments and keep it all rolling forward.
Yeah. So in thinking about your Bloom menu, because the whole really lovely idea behind your restaurant is that you're bringing in local ingredients and that you're featuring local farms and, vendors that might not otherwise be seen, And so in thinking about how you incorporate local ingredients into your menu, like, again, explaining from your background, why is it important to you to do that, to be able to bring your community into your menu in such a way?
For sure. Yeah. Local food, for me, it's hard to fathom a world where we don't offer local food on every table. The flavor, the importance, the ultimate benefit that it has in that direct community is so impactful and so exponential in terms of the growth, the health, the nutrition, just the general benefits of eating and supporting local. So I can't stress that enough for everyone out there. Go to your farmer's market, go to Leap, go to the mobile market, do whatever you can to continue to grow this local food scene. And with that being said, you can ideally, I feel like you can taste the difference on the plate too.
I would absolutely agree with that.
A carrot just hits different, a local carrot. So it's just
which is one of your favorites. I feel like you almost always have carrots on your menu
always.
too.
Well, it's also something that grows pretty,
Yeah.
Regularly, multiple seasons around here too. So.
Yeah, and the one thing you've kept on your menu, I think, since the soft opening that I was there, was those potatoes aioli. Like that has stayed consistent, and it must be popular.
Flagship for sure. Oh yeah, the potato is the root of almost any menu, so you got to have a nod to a delicious potato out there.
The root of almost any menu. All right, taught me something new. So in thinking about your favorite dishes on the menu, is it hard to pick a favorite? Whether you even have a favorite, I don't know. You have things that you like and flavors that you love. Like, what's one of your favorite ingredients to cook with?
I feel like that's like asking Jason, what's your favorite album?
Bob Dylan album specifically.
Right. Exactly. So, but I would say something that kind of comes to mind lately is the spaghetti squash dish that we'll do have done a couple years in a row now, and it's just left the menu because, of course, this season is short-lived. But the simplicity, and just the elegant nature of just treating spaghetti squash as if it was spaghetti and just having a delicious aged Gouda and cheese and a nice sauce. Just the simplicity of an ingredient and how it can shine.
Yeah, that
stands out to me.
One of my favorites.
Top of mind, at
oh
least
my
lately.
Gosh, you put Gouda on anything and I'll eat it. But
Right,
like,
yeah, especially 24-month aged raw milk Gouda.
yeah, it's like 10:30 in the morning, and I'm ready to eat some Bloom dinner on a Monday. Well, that's awesome. And so, has there been any ingredient or maybe a dish on your menu with a heartwarming story related to a farmer or a local farm? And I have one that I think of in mind, but I'm curious what your first response might be.
Yeah, every plate and every ingredient has a story at some point for that individual that raised that from seed to what becomes the plate, the fork for the guest. So I think a story that means a lot to me lately was our dinner that we did with Smoke and Chimneys.
Yep,
That was
yep.
really incredible to have Ty there and with his family and being able to kind of have a cookout in the courtyard and just, I don't know, just have a conversation and just hang out with a friend of mine while working. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I was there for that, and that was going to be my example. So you stole
Oh, there
my
you go.
answer.
All right.
But no, that was great because he went around and talked to the tables and got like
Yeah, he jumped right in there.
Yeah, and we kind of knew him from the farmers market, but like he was asking questions and how did you hear about us and things like that, and he was so interested in hearing the table's responses, and it was great to see that. It was almost like seeing community being built right there because he was paying attention to who had come out to support you, to support him. And so, he sees that people are giving back and he was so grateful for it. I mean, I know that he's such a good guy. And so to have what they happened to their farm and for you to kind of come in and Gladheart and a couple of others really kind of came together to help him. And it was great to see the community do that.
Yeah. And that's, ultimately Roanoke is community. And that's another reason why settling here and launching Bloom just felt right. You have that gut feeling that they say, and it's just the community there. And we have such a great community, and it's supportive, and we look out for one another no matter what.
Well, you've given me an excellent seg, so I appreciate that. But you actually give back to the community quite a bit through the restaurant. You've been a consultant with Leap Market and things like that, but you also pick a charity organization. Is it every month where people can give back?
Every month, yep.
Yeah.
So it's very similar to how the co-op does the roundup, but of course it's a blank line that the guests can leave whatever amount they feel is appropriate.
Right, which I think is interesting that you do that just because it's another way to give back. Even in a passive way, you don't.
Exactly. And it just allows us an opportunity to, once again, do what we can for our community and support local organizations that every dollar counts and makes a difference and an impact on ultimately the health and the welfare and the wellness of everyone around us.
Yeah. And you really pick a wide variety of organizations, which is interesting.
We try to keep a diverse audience of who we're supporting because we believe in so many different causes. It's not just specifically food. We do a lot of work with women's shelters and battered abuse and things like that. Just anything that really strikes a chord for us and organizations that we know that need our support.
Yeah. Is it like a staff pick? Like, how do you do that? Like,
generally the management team will choose, but if anyone ever has a suggestion, we're always open to incorporating whatever group we can.
Cool. That's great. So in thinking about the Roanoke dining scene, of all the things that you've been a part of it, what do you love most about our dining scene currently in Roanoke?
Williamson Road.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of the Roanoke scene.
You hanging over there and just eat everywhere if you can?
It's hard to choose.
Yeah.
It's just so great. I feel so fortunate to be in a town that has such a great community of diverse offerings and things.
I think
from
that's
one side to the other.
Yeah, it's especially interesting because you've mentioned travel and international travel. So you've lived in other spots. And so that you feel comfortable saying, I can eat internationally here in Roanoke without too much travel.
We are really fortunate to have the diverse offerings that we do.
Yeah.
And of course the downtown scene's always great. We got great restaurants down there. Can't beat it. But when I'm craving something different, I usually hit Williamson Road and see what calls my name.
Cool. I was going to say, how much free time do you really have anyway? But do you even get out to to eat at a lot of places?
Restaurant operating hours.
Obviously, you're probably a little busy during dinner time. You've got a dinner rush to head off.
But my team, I will say, my team is incredible. Or the Bloom team that we have is incredible, and more I see more of a light to kind of get out and try things during general operating hours.
Yeah.
So I feel very fortunate for that.
And in your free time, what are you doing when you're not eating? I mean, are you skateboarding under the
not
bridge?
Anymore. I can't afford a wrist injury.
That's fair.
Usually it's just hiking or spending time outside.
Yeah, that's cool. I know
friends,
you like to
family, and
get
loved
on the
ones.
river and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
any excuse to get in the sun.
Yeah, well, cool. Well, listeners, we have barely scratched the surface of this interview. I have so many more questions for him that we're actually going to break this into 2 segments. So we're going to have a special bonus episode in January, but we're going to share even more about Nate. So please stay tuned for that. Nate, thank you so much for being on From Print to Podcast
Thanks,
today.
Liz.
Really appreciate your time and everything you're doing to contribute to our community as Bloom. And thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you all for
really wonderful.
helping us be a part of it.
Absolutely. So you can see Bloom's 2024 Dining Awards wins and more of the restaurant's coverage in our latest issue over at theroanoker.com. And I bet you're already excited to learn more about Bloom Restaurant and Wine Bar, as well as make your dinner or brunch reservations quick or I'll take your seat, which you can do at bloomrke.com.